Okay, we're taking a look at the bottom-loaded horse stance. First thing we should look at is how to actually get into a horse stance position. Now the horse stance is basically a sumo squat position, but just the details that we're applying there are a little bit more specific to flexibility or the outcome we're looking for. So we're going to be looking at a three-step stance. So what Eugene's doing is with his feet together, he's going to turn to the heels out or toes out. That's one step. And then the heels will then move, that's two, and then the feet will turn again, and that would be your three-step stance, and you would just square your feet up from there. So feet can be squared forward. That may demand a little bit more from the integrity of the knee. So if there's any discomfort there, we can just kind of slightly turn those feet out, because our objective here is to find as much external rotation and abduction to stretch the adductors out. So before we even load it, you can see Eugene squat down into a horse stance position. So for purposes of flexibility, what we're thinking about here is tilting the pelvis forward into an anterior tilt. There you go. Torso alignment, it doesn't have to be super strict. Like if we feel like we're blocked there, we can just slightly pull ourselves forward. And this is really where the bottom loaded horse stance as a loaded stretch comes into the picture with helping us. And that's what it's actually doing at the start, is as much as we're loading this stretch, it's actually helping us pull into more extension of the hip. So what Eugene can think about doing here is extending the hip forward while pulling himself up through the assistance of the stretch, assistance of the weight. And this would be the static hold. This will be prescribed as a static, or you may see it prescribed as a quasi-isometric in that bottom position, which would just look like a very, very slow pulsing action of the hips, even slower. Okay? So that is our bottom loaded horse stance. Dumbbells work really well. A kettlebell could be used, any kind of bottom loaded position that helps us feel like we're being pulled into a better upright stretch position. Okay, we're going to be taking a look at a band-assisted pigeon stretch from an incline bench. And this just adds another dimension to that pigeon stretch position and what we can get out of it. So the pigeon stretch setup, 90-degree angle. Incline bench is nice because we can not worry so much about forcing this knee down and work within our own constraints. Stepping back to find the stretch. And what we're looking to do now with the band is, instead of squatting ourselves down deeper into the stretch, we're actually going to rotate and get some active assisted from the band to bring the glutes into a rotated, lengthened position. So if I get the band set up on a post or beam and set up my pigeon stretch, so from the opposite side with that arm now, I can get some active assisted reaching from the band. Just get that rotational stretch from the glutes as I hinge forward and back up. So this will be prescribed as reps, but you'll see that there's components of the rep where there will be a hold in that stretch position, 3 to 5 second count, and then pulling ourselves back up into that upright posture. Okay, this is our butterfly stretch series. What we're doing here now with the butterfly stretch is from seated posture, bringing those feet in together to find a nice stretch through the adductors. We may want to position ourselves against a wall so that we find a good position with the posture that keeps us a little bit more strict to the form and the position, but the way Eugene's set up here is fine. One of the outcomes here is going to be getting the feet closer towards the midline over the course of the stretch, and of course, seeing the knees come closer towards the floor. So it's going to be a great one for us to use for measurement of success in that range of motion. And specifically with this series, what we're going to do first is set up a block under the legs. So this is going to give us the feedback on the shortening side of the stretch position. So this pressing down action is what you'll see first. So short side contraction is that pressing down. Will be prescribed as either a 15-second ramping threshold or a 30-second ramping threshold, where we will then perform the lengthened side by placing the hands on the knees to press against and create that lengthened tissue contraction. So that is what we're going to move through first before loading the stretch. So after we've done that, however it's prescribed, we were then removing the blocks and adding load to the knees, tops of the knees there. So we have options here. What you'll most likely see is that we're going to be performing a static hold, probably that of a quasi-isometric through that end range. So wherever our end range position is, that quasi-isometric type movement is a very, very slow pulsing type action. And what you want to be thinking about is using the same type of contraction we were with the blocks. So you want to feel like the shortening tissue is lowering the legs. So the glutes are really taking the work there, and then the adductors are working to kind of move back up and down. So that is our butterfly stretch overview. Okay, we're taking a look at a standing pancake setup now. And a couple things to consider here. So for the standing pancake, we're in basically a straddle stance forward fold. So you could look at it that way, where the legs are apart now and we're folding forward. Often the mistake that a lot of people make here is that they think because now it's a pancake that we need to maintain all of this extension of the spine as we go down, but it's very much the same as a pike type posture. We can learn to fold ourselves down and still apply that hip spine coordination as we start to move through the end range. So it's a great learning tool for understanding what a pancake split entails and kind of offers in that end range of the stretch. But we should talk about the width of the feet here. Good rule of thumb with pancake type positions is just working through your wingspan. So we want to feel like whatever width we move to, starting out, you're going to, based on your body type, be able to find the best stretch with the wingspan being able to grab the back of the Achilles. That usually allows any body type to be able to get those inner hamstrings involved a little bit more, as well as the groin. So the standing pancake, we are allowing ourselves to fold down similarly to how we would in a pike stretch. So my wingspan could even be a little bit longer here if I wanted. I'm now thinking about lengthening the spine, reaching my head down, and then tilting the pelvis. Now for this one, as we're holding the stretch, we could have the hips behind the heels to allow ourselves to sink in deeper and find the hip flexors a bit stronger. And then as we get more settled into the stretch, we can stack the hips over the heels and push that head down towards the ground. One good cue that you can work towards here, where we've done that on a pike stretch where we're pushing down into something, the pancake offers more specificity to the reaching of the spine. We can think about the head coming into contact with an object. So instead of reaching down with the hands here, I'm actually reaching with my head, and I have that attainable target that I'm working for now, with a good milestone being head to floor. Head to floor at your wingspan. So that is the standing pancake stretch. So if you're spending time in your standing pancake stretch, those are the considerations you want to be thinking about. But other strategies we can use from that standing position would be things like pulling ourselves in and out of the stretch to find more compression strength. So a post that I have here, or it could be a barbell at a lower position, something that's going to allow me to now think about actually pulling myself in to that stretch position to be providing myself that compression strength. So things that you'd be considering here, there's no like rules, hard rules about like staying tight through the quads, but going through periods of tensing the quads to then relax while keeping a calm breath will help you move a little bit deeper through that stretch position.